It started with a text. Just one line. No punctuation. No emotion. No explanation. I'm going with him. That was it. No, sorry. No, we need to talk. Just those 4 words, like I was a hotel she'd checked out of early. I reread it 8 times. She didn't even say his name. Just him, like I was supposed to know. But of course I knew. Her family made sure I knew. They'd been planting the seed for months. Little remarks at every dinner. Colin's parents have connections, you know. Colin got promoted again. Impressive at his age. Colin's taking his parents to Paris. Isn't that sweet? Meanwhile, I was scraping by trying to launch my own tech startup out of a shared workspace with flickering lights and a vending machine that ate my dollars. But I was building something real. Something I believed in. Something we were supposed to believe in together. But her family didn't want belief. They wanted proof, the kind that comes with cufflinks and credit scores. I sat there staring at the message while the kettle screamed behind me. I'd been making tea for both of us. Her favorite chamomile. The one I always bought in bulk because she said it helped her sleep after long days. I stood there holding 2 mugs. One slowly cooling. The other suddenly pointless. She didn't even come home to pack. She left while I was at a vendor pitch. Took her coats, her charger, her fake fiddle leaf fig, and the vintage camera I gave her last Christmas. She left the framed photo of us from Coney Island, though. Of course she did. I almost messaged back. I wrote out 3 different replies. Seriously? I gave you everything. Good luck when he gets bored. But I deleted all of them. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of knowing I was spiraling. Instead, I turned off my phone, walked to the mirror, and saw the version of me she left behind. Hair too messy. Eyes too tired. A t-shirt with her foundation still on the shoulder. I looked like someone who lost. I felt like someone who lost. For 2 days, I didn't speak to anyone. My friend Mal called 9 times. I didn't answer. My landlord knocked about rent. I ignored it. The app one was developing? I let a bug go live that crashed half the back end. I didn't care. But on day 3, something shifted. I woke up, still on the couch, and saw her mug sitting in the sink. The same one that said, "Let the world burn. I'm having tea." I stared at it for a full minute. Then I grabbed a marker and scratched out the word tea. Wrote revenge instead. That's when I knew. I wasn't going to beg her back. I wasn't going to prove anything to her parents. I was going to win, not just move on. I was going to thrive. And she was going to watch. I didn't hear from her for weeks after that one-line breakup. Not a call. Not a crumb. Just silence, like I never existed. Her social media, though, that told me everything. Within days, she'd switched her profile picture to one of her and him at a ski lodge. Matching white coats. Matching fake smiles. He was the kind of guy who wore sunglasses at night. Probably because his ego blocked the moonlight. And the captions? Grateful for new beginnings. New beginnings? I was still choking on the ending. People started messaging me. Mutual friends. Some even had the nerve to ask if I was okay. As if I'd just been gently let down, not kicked to the curb like last week's leftovers. One of them, Drew, sent me a photo she posted on her story. Colin. Yeah, that's his name. Of course it's Colin. Buying her a brand new car. Not a pre-owned Civic. A fully loaded, straight-off-the-lot luxury SUV. With a ribbon. A freaking ribbon. I stared at that picture for hours. Not because I missed her, but because I couldn't stop thinking how easy it was for her to trade everything we had for leather seats and lane assist. We struggled together. We made sacrifices. She was there in the early days when I couldn't afford takeout, when I borrowed money from my cousin to buy a new laptop charger. She knew the blood I poured into building my startup. She saw me pull 3 all-nighters in a row. She held my hand when my first investor ghosted. She told me I was destined for something big. But I guess destiny loses its charm when someone else already has the big house. I was the struggle story. Colin was the success shortcut. And the thing that hurt most? She'd once told me that she didn't care about money, that her family's obsession with image made her sick. She claimed she wanted something real. I was real. I was too real. So real, in fact, that when life got uncomfortable, she ran back to the comfort of being chosen, of being approved by her parents again. I kept thinking, maybe I should confront her. Maybe I should show up to one of their fancy dinners and say, "Hey, remember me? The guy you used to believe in before the stock options?" But I didn't. Instead, I buried myself in my work. Not because I was strong, but because I had nothing else. It wasn't glamorous. It was brutal. I slept on the couch most nights. My fridge was empty except for expired hummus and flat soda. I ignored texts. I skipped birthdays. My life became a loop. Wake up, stare at the screen, code, fix bugs, collapse. Repeat. But something weird happened in the quiet. My app started gaining users. Then a journalist wrote a small piece about it. Then a TikTok influencer made a video. And just like that, people were talking about it. Funding offers started trickling in. Then pouring. I didn't tell anyone at first. Not even my closest friends. I wanted to keep it mine. Pure. Because unlike her, I wasn't doing this for applause. I was doing it because I'd been dismissed, rejected, measured, and found lacking. And I was going to make sure the next time she saw me, it wouldn't be because I showed up at her door. It'd be because I was everywhere she looked. The first time she saw my face again, it wasn't in person, it was on a billboard. Dead center in her part of town, too. I didn't put it there to spite her. It just happened. My company got its first major funding round, 7 figures. And the ad agency handling the campaign picked the location without me even realizing it. Poetic, right? The same road her parents used to drive me down with condescending small talk now had my name towering above traffic. I didn't post about it. Didn't gloat. But she saw it. Oh, she definitely saw it. I knew because a week later, she unblocked me. Then came the likes on my old posts. The subtle breadcrumb trail. The final cherry on top. A message at 1:14 in the morning. Just one word. Congrats. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I had everything to say, and none of it was worth giving her anymore. I'd spent months believing I was the broken one. That maybe she was right to leave. That maybe loving someone who was building from the ground up was too much to ask. But now I was getting emails from people I used to beg for meetings with. I was hiring staff. I had a real office. I even got my first business credit card, with my name on it, embossed in silver. But I wasn't just rebuilding myself. Something else had changed too. I met someone. Her name's Emery, and she's nothing like Nadine. She doesn't care that I don't wear suits. She doesn't treat ambition like it's a currency to spend on approval. She listens, not because she's trying to find weaknesses in what I say, but because she actually cares. We met at a networking event I almost skipped. I was tired, hadn't shaved, wore the same sneakers I'd had for 4 years, but she still found me interesting. Not my pitch, not my product, me. And just as things with Emery started feeling real, Nadine messaged again. This time it was longer. I don't know if this is weird, but I drove by your billboard the other day. You look happy. Really happy. I'm glad you're doing well. You always deserved more than people gave you credit for. I didn't know what to do with that. It felt too late. Too rehearsed. Like she saw the boat sailing and wanted to swim after it just to say she tried. But I was done being her backup plan. I wasn't the emotional trampoline she could bounce on when her golden boy boyfriend got busy playing executive. And speaking of Colin, yeah, he didn't exactly age well in this whole story. Mutual friends started whispering. Apparently, he'd been working late a lot. Nadine wasn't posting photos anymore. Then someone told me she moved out of his condo. Rumor was his parents didn't like her attitude. Her attitude. Ironic, huh? But I didn't celebrate. I didn't even feel vindicated. I felt empty. Because when someone throws you away like garbage, and you rise from it, there's this hollow space where the revenge fantasy used to live. You realize nothing you build will undo what they did. It just proves you never needed them to begin with. Still, I wasn't stupid. I knew this wasn't the last time I'd hear from her. Because when people leave you for something shinier, they don't expect the thing they left to outshine them. It was a rainy Tuesday, the kind of day where the sky looks like it gave up halfway through the morning. I was at the office, finalizing a major partnership deal, when the receptionist buzzed in with a confused voice. She says she knows you. She's not on the calendar, but she won't leave. I knew before she even said her name. My stomach turned to ice. I walked out into the lobby, and there she was. Nadine. Standing there in a beige coat that probably cost more than my first year of rent. Hair perfect, face unreadable. But she wasn't glowing like she used to. Something in her eyes looked off. Hello. She tried to smile. Wow. This place is huge. I didn't answer. I just stared. She was the same person who'd left me via text, who vanished into luxury and reappeared only when my name started showing up in magazines. And now she was here, uninvited, like no time had passed. I was in the area, she said, trying to keep her voice casual. Just wanted to see how you're doing. It was such a lie, I didn't even flinch. She wasn't here by accident. She planned this. The timing wasn't lost on me. 2 weeks after news leaked about my company's upcoming expansion. A press photo of me and a Fortune 100 exec had just gone semi-viral. Suddenly, I was visible. Suddenly, I mattered again, to her. I led her into a small meeting room, out of sight from my staff. The last thing I needed was gossip flying around. She sat across from me like we were on a first date again. But I didn't lean in. I didn't ask how she'd been. I just waited. I made mistakes, she finally said. I didn't realize how much pressure my parents put on me. I thought Colin was the right move. It felt safe. But it was all fake. I stayed silent. Part of me wanted to explode, to remind her she didn't just leave. She humiliated me. She let her parents talk about me like I was some phase she needed to outgrow, and she didn't defend me once. She treated our 4 years like a warm-up round before her real life started. And now that her fantasy crumbled? Now she remembered the guy with no money and too many dreams? She kept talking. Said she missed the way we used to laugh, and how she still had the ugly candle I made for her that smelled like burnt cinnamon. She asked if I was seeing anyone. I wanted to lie, wanted to say no, to see that flicker of hope cross her face, just to rip it away. But I didn't. I told her the truth. Yeah, I said. Her name's Emery. She's kind. Real. Nadine looked down. And that's when I realized. She had come expecting a door. Instead, she found a wall. Do you hate me? She asked quietly. I didn't answer right away. Because the truth was more complicated than yes or no. I didn't hate her. I pitied her. Because she had everything, and it still wasn't enough. Because she walked away from a man who would have given her the world, for a man who just rented his. I don't hate you, I said, but I'm done letting you take space in a life you didn't believe in. Her lips trembled. She nodded like she expected that, like it hurt anyway. She left without asking for anything more. No hug, no number, no maybe one day. Just a quiet exit and a final glance, like she was trying to memorize a room she'd never be allowed in again. And I sat there for a long time, staring at the door after it closed. Because that was the first time I truly felt like I'd won. Not out of revenge, not out of ego, but because I didn't need her anymore. Not even a little. The days after she showed up were strangely quiet. Not a single follow-up text. No cryptic posts. No mutual friends reaching out to say, she just needs closure. It was as if she'd vanished again. Only this time, it didn't sting. I didn't sit by the phone. I didn't scroll through her photos like some lovesick kid. I didn't feel anything, except clarity. But the silence didn't last. It was a Saturday afternoon, and Emery and I had just gotten back from a charity tech event, where I gave a small talk on resilience and failure. Ironic, right? I opened the front door with that warm, exhausted glow you get from doing something that actually matters. Emery kicked off her shoes, smiling, and said she'd start the coffee. That's when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Nadine. No words. Just a photo. A dimly lit picture of her apartment floor. Scattered boxes. One lone glass of wine. A moving out moment. Maybe symbolic, maybe bait. Beneath it, one line of text. I miss being safe. It hit me in a weird way. Not because I felt sorry for her, but because it was so predictable. The moment she ran out of applause, she came crawling back to the one person who clapped without needing a spotlight. She called me safe, like that was a bad thing. But what she really meant was stable. What she really meant was loyal. What she really meant was the kind of man who stays when things get hard, not one who disappears the second her shine dims. I didn't answer. I didn't even show Emery. Not because I was hiding anything, but because I didn't want Nadine to live in my new life, even as a shadow. She had taken enough from me already. Time, trust, peace. But that night, as Emery and I sat on the couch watching reruns of some goofy 2000s sitcom, I couldn't stop thinking about how far I'd come. How close I'd been to quitting. To letting her family define me. To becoming the bitter, broke ex they predicted I'd be. Instead, I had rebuilt myself with nothing but a cracked laptop, a burned-out heart, and a stupid amount of stubbornness. And now I had someone who didn't love me in spite of who I was, but because of it. The next day, I got another message from Nadine. Longer this time. I keep thinking about all the little things. Your dumb morning playlists. The way you used to leave notes in my shoes when I had interviews. I don't know why I threw all that away. I just panicked. Everyone was telling me Colin was the dream. But he wasn't you. He never could be. I wish I'd seen it sooner. I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to type something scathing. To unload all the things I'd swallowed over the last year. But I didn't. Because silence, now, was the message. She was looking for redemption. I was looking forward. Later that week, she showed up again, not at my office this time, but at a panel I was speaking at. I saw her the second I stepped off stage, standing near the back, trying to blend in. She didn't approach. She just watched, probably wondering how I got from the guy fixing power cords on the floor to the man on a lit-up stage, microphone in hand, talking about growth. When our eyes met, I nodded once. No smile, no wave, just a quiet acknowledgement. She nodded back and then turned and walked away. And in that moment, I realized the old me would have chased her. The broken me would have believed that love deserved a second chance just because someone finally missed it. But the man I'd become? He was too busy living the life she didn't believe I could build. 3 weeks passed, and just when I thought it was all behind me, I got an invitation I never expected. A former mutual friend was hosting a rooftop launch party for a wellness startup, and I was asked to come as a guest speaker. Nothing too formal, just a 5-minute fireside chat about entrepreneurship and emotional resilience. The word ironic doesn't even begin to cover it. I almost declined, but Emery convinced me to go. You've earned the spotlight, she said. And besides, maybe it's time some people saw what thriving really looks like. The venue was stunning, glass everything, soft jazz playing, fake smiles and real cocktails floating across the crowd. People I hadn't seen in years suddenly knew my name again. And as I stood near the edge of the rooftop, sipping ginger ale and mentally preparing my speech, I heard a voice I hadn't heard in nearly a year. Soft, familiar, and completely unwelcome. Ellis. I turned. Of course it was her. Nadine looked different. Not worse, just less polished. Like she wasn't trying so hard to impress anymore, which somehow made her more real than I'd seen her in a long time. But I didn't let my guard drop. I wasn't about to rewrite history because of nostalgia. I didn't think I'd run into you here, she said. A lie, clearly. She knew I was speaking. Everyone did. My name was literally on the event flyer. I nodded. Guess the city's smaller than we thought. She gave a half smile. I saw your interview last week. The one on that business podcast. You talked about loyalty. About how some people only believe in you after everyone else does. I said nothing. Let the silence speak. She looked away for a second, then back at me. I wasn't ready for what we had. That's the truth. I thought I needed someone with power, but I needed someone with heart. You had both. I didn't see it until it was gone. And there it was. The confession. The scene she probably rehearsed in her head 100 times, waiting for the moment I'd soften, offer a drink, maybe suggest we catch up. The old me might have done exactly that. Might have cracked the door open just enough for her to sneak back in. But while she was looking back, I'd spent every day moving forward. I'm glad you figured that out, I finally said. But you figured it out for you, not for us. And there's nothing left to salvage. She blinked a few times, caught off guard by how calm I was. How steady, as if she'd expected me to be bitter, or wounded, or quietly waiting for her to say she made a mistake. But I wasn't that man anymore. And then, as if scripted by karma itself, Emery appeared. She walked up, linked her arm with mine, and gave Nadine the warm, confident smile of someone who had nothing to prove. I didn't have to introduce her. Nadine knew exactly who she was. Emery asked if I was ready to go over my notes. I said yes. Nadine stepped back, eyes flickering with something between regret and resignation. It was good seeing you, she said. I nodded once. Take care of yourself. She lingered for a second longer, then turned and disappeared into the crowd, like just another face in a sea of people trying to matter. And as Emery and I walked toward the stage together, I realized the most powerful thing I'd ever done wasn't proving her wrong. It was proving myself right. A week after that rooftop encounter, I got a letter. Not an email, not a text. An actual handwritten letter, stuffed into a fancy envelope with my name scrawled in slanted cursive that I hadn't seen since she used to leave sticky notes on my bathroom mirror. Inside, it was 5 pages long, front and back. 5 pages of apologies, memories, explanations, deflections, and, of course, regret. She wrote about how she kept waiting for the spark with Colin, how she thought maybe stability would come later, how she felt like a visitor in her own life. She said she missed how I used to hum under my breath when I was focused, how I remembered her coffee order when she didn't, how I saw her before anyone else did. The part that stuck with me most was near the end. She wrote, I didn't realize I was breaking something real because I was chasing something shiny. That sentence sat in my chest for a long time. But the truth is, she hadn't broken something. She had abandoned it. And now she wanted to come back like it was just a pause. Like real life had an undo button. I didn't write back. I didn't burn the letter or post it online for sympathy. I just slid it into the back of a drawer, under a stack of old notebooks. Not because I wanted to keep it, but because I needed to remind myself how far I'd come from the version of me who would have seen that letter as hope. The crazy part? My life didn't explode after she left. It ignited. The business expanded into 3 cities. We got a government contract I thought was out of reach. I was mentoring young entrepreneurs who reminded me of me. Guys working from coffee shops and sleeping 3 hours a night because they believed in something no one else did. And Emery? She became more than just a partner. She was the person who celebrated my wins without asking for credit, who held me accountable when I doubted myself, who didn't care how big the stage was. She was always clapping the loudest, even when no one else was looking. One night, after a long day of back-to-back meetings, I told Emery the whole story. From the beginning. I didn't hold back. I told her about the text, the yacht photos, the letter, all of it. I thought she'd be hurt or annoyed, maybe even a little jealous. But she just smiled softly and said, "I'm not afraid of your past. I'm just grateful it made space for me." That's when I knew. That's when I realized that everything I thought I lost wasn't actually mine to begin with. I'd been holding on to an idea of love, something built on survival and hope, not trust and truth. What Nadine gave me in that final year wasn't love. It was a countdown to betrayal. And what I had now, it was peace. It was honesty. It was solid ground I didn't have to earn or beg for. She had her shot. She walked away. And no matter how many letters she wrote, or how many times she showed up in crowds, she couldn't rewrite the ending. Because the man she left behind didn't exist anymore. The last time I saw Nadine, it wasn't planned. I wasn't dressed to impress. No grand entrance, no crowd, no spotlight. Just a regular morning at a downtown cafe where I usually stopped before heading to the office. I was standing in line, half asleep, waiting for my usual black coffee when I heard a soft gasp behind me. I turned, and there she was. She looked smaller, not physically, but emotionally, like someone who'd carried too much regret for too long and was starting to crumble beneath it. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I gave her a polite nod. "You look good," she said, with a breathy awkwardness. "Busy. Important." "I'm just getting coffee," I replied, shrugging. "Not that important." She gave a nervous laugh. "I meant in life." I didn't say anything right away. I didn't need to. I think my silence made it clear that the life she once left behind was now miles beyond her reach. She asked if I had a minute to sit down. Against my better judgment, I agreed, not out of curiosity, but because I wanted that chapter closed, not just ignored. We sat by the window. She told me how things ended with Colin, how it fell apart once the image cracked, how he treated her more like a trophy than a partner, how her parents still didn't approve of anything she did, even after she followed every plan they laid out for her. She admitted she was lonely, that she kept thinking about the life she gave up, about me. "I know it's too late," she said, her voice trembling. "But you were the only person who ever saw me. Not for what I could offer, but for who I really was." I sipped my coffee and looked her in the eye. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger, or heartbreak, or even pity. I felt freedom. "I did see you," I said quietly. "And I loved you the best way I knew how. But you didn't see me. Not when it mattered. And the man you left behind, he's not here anymore." Tears welled in her eyes. She nodded, like she knew that was coming. Like part of her had hoped for a different answer, but deep down, she respected the truth. I stood up, told her I wished her peace, and left without looking back. And that was it. No big scene. No final kiss. No dramatic explosion. Just 2 people who took different roads, and one of them finally accepting that she chose the wrong one. Now, every morning, I wake up next to Emery. We live in a modest but beautiful home on the edge of the city. She makes coffee while I read over pitches. We argue about what movie to watch and who forgot to unload the dishwasher. It's not a fantasy. It's real. And that's what I always wanted. Not someone who wanted the idea of me, but someone who loved me when I had nothing and still stands beside me now that I've built everything. My business is thriving. My heart is healed. My past is closed. And the best part? I didn't have to take revenge. I just had to grow. Quietly. Honestly. Completely. She lost something rare the day she walked away. But me? I found everything.